Have you ever had one of those weeks where you're really excited about the project you're working on, but you're kind of afraid you're letting yourself down? Let's talk about it. Hello, my name is Charlie and welcome back to my channel. And I am working on my epic fantasy novel that turned into a trilogy, that turned into a pentalogy. So there are going to be 5 of these books now, and in and of itself, that's okay. Then there's these thoughts in the back of my head that make me wonder exactly how okay it is. You see, in working on this book, I have 2 competing factions fighting it out in the back of my head for dominance. One, I get tired of fantasy worlds that have all manner of magical critters in them that are always relegated to the background, and I wish that that wasn't true. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I generally like anime, because they aren't afraid to make some of those magical mystical critters the protagonists in their stories. At the same time, I get really upset when a property goes, hey, we're going to do representation. So all of the characters are something that's not human. Yeah. So I've got a non-binary character who is also kind of embodying the body of like a snow leopard with a familiar, so not human. I have an ace character that I'm very excited about, who some of you may have heard me lovingly refer to as the murder radish. There are very few human characters in this book. So am I breaking my own rules? Am I violating my own core concepts for what makes a story good? Am I actually working against the cause? This is one of many things that has kind of kept me up at night lately while I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that I'm doing, because let's be honest, working on a new series, especially one that will launch a new world for you that you have quite a few series planned out in, that's terrifying. That's terrifying in and of itself. But doing so in a way that you're starting to worry is going against your core themes and what you actually want other stories and writers to do, well, that's problematic. So I guess, first of all, when I've complained about this in the past, it's always been because of it being unnecessary. I'm not going to go into detail. You can go to the podcast and see my feels about this, but we finally have a non-binary character on Star Trek, and they are a trill who have multiple people living inside them, so it feels more natural to say they, because they're literally haunted by their AMAB boyfriend who was the previous host, and they're AFAB themselves. So it just, of course, non-binary, that's what it means. You have 2 souls inside you that are haunting you. And no, it's not at least my experience of being non-binary. And so in that instance, I feel like they are offshoring an understanding of what the thing is that they're talking about into an analogy that is easier to understand for people that are not familiar with the subject. Or they're abstracting it in a way to try to get beyond people's prejudices. The original Star Trek, for example, did this a lot in that it analogized a lot of questions about the Cold War and race relations so that they could slip under a lot of the prejudices that people had and maybe actually talk about the issues in front of them. And I don't have that much of a problem with it in the original series. It's the series that happened afterwards where the analogies demonstrate a clear lack of understanding for what's being discussed. No, being gay isn't about choosing gender. And that's a really problematic episode to watch as the gay episode. As a non-binary person, it's a very different episode to watch, but it shows how they really didn't understand the issue that they were going for. So in a lot of ways, I don't feel like I'm doing that. Ghost Echo, that's the character's name, is non-binary, not because they are Nefrir. They just happen to be Nefrir. But that tells me that what I need to do is actually build this out into more of the characters. I need to have a broader scope in there. It also has ticked a couple triggers inside my own head because in the main cast of characters, in the 4 POV characters in the first book, only one of them is identifiably human. We have a Tugwaddle, a murder radish, and a magical furry, and we have another person who completely masks their appearance. So you don't know who they really are. You know, that mysterious stranger thing that I really love to do. That puts me in a place where I feel like I have to do something with the human representation in the story. And I'll do my best through the characters that we meet going through the world. I am not going to let this destroy me. And I say that because this is the excuse that is always given anytime a lack of representation is put forward.
Of course, how would we shoehorn them in?
And I do find it funny that I'm trying to figure out how to fit, especially like heterosexual people into the story, because I don't have a necessarily straight person in the but they should be represented too at some point. Yeah, it's been a lot to think about, and it's been a lot to take under advisement as I'm working out who the characters are and what the world is that they're interacting in. Because I want to do everything in my power not to be a hypocrite. And given the anger that I've been feeling about some of the things that the author of Bridgerton has said about how, well, you can't just make it so in fiction. I mean, how could you ever just say that a fictional thing just happens without having to justify it and explain it through history and suffering? And I just can't with that. I just can't with that. I'm going to do my best to actually make this story work the way that I want it to, but I am still struggling. I would love to know how you all deal with this in your own fiction, because I'm more concerned about this in the edit. I'm trying to make it as diverse as I can in the early drafts, but I will be keeping a very special eye to that in revision to make sure that I am not, being the problematic person that I often rail against. It's a trap. It's all a trap. I keep laying traps for myself because I have very high ideals. And reaching them is not always easy. But if you're not reaching up, very often you're falling down. So yeah, I am working on that thing that I call an outline for these 5 books. Actually figured out a way that I could write all 5 books in 1 year. Possibly even write and release all 5 books in 1 year. Actually, I didn't figure that out. The hubby figured that out. So we'll see if I do that. I really don't know. But it's intriguing. This is definitely intriguing. But yeah, I may be back on the half-mil ready train. We'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. But yeah, let me know how you deal with this. What are your feels about fantasy worlds and how they are constructed and how diversity actually feeds into the discussion of a full-on fantasy world? I would love to hear your comments. I really would. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out a lot. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you may find out what I do. I live stream on this channel twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We talk, we chat, we do some productivity together, and it's a lot of fun, and I hope that you can join us. If you like the things that I do and you'd like to help me to keep doing it, you'll find a link to my Ko-fi and my Patreon down in the box below, because these are hard times. These are hard times. And until next time, since we live in a nightmare hellscape that is not going to get better if we don't go out there and fight. Say it with me now. Black lives matter, Black trans lives matter, and trans identities are magic. And until next time, may you have the courage to ride your dreams into reality. And don't forget to have the fun. Bye.